everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Stephanie Tsai. President Trump is planning to focus on infrastructure today, but the country is focused on anything but that as the fallout continues over his delayed response to the violence in Charlottesville. Another business leader is now taking a stance. Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing, announced he is dropping out of the president's Manufacturing Council. Paul's resignation follows in the footsteps of CEOs from Intel, Under Armour, as well as Merck Pharmaceuticals. Meanwhile, there could be another staff shakeup afoot in the White House. Brooke Silverbraga has more from Trump Tower, where President Trump is continuing his so-called working vacation.
President Trump awoke in New York City this morning for the first time since his inauguration. The president arrived last night and was met with both supporters and protesters outside Trump Tower. Protesters are angry he waited 2 days to explicitly condemn white supremacist groups that gathered in Charlottesville, Virginia over the weekend.
Racism is evil, and those who cause violence in its name are criminals and thugs, including the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists.
The president will host an infrastructure discussion later this afternoon, but many political watchers are focused on another possible shakeup back in Washington. Multiple sources tell CBS News Trump's chief political strategist, Steve Bannon's job is in serious jeopardy because Trump's chief of staff, John Kelly, is working to restore order in the White House. And in a tweet this morning, President Trump appeared to endorse the possibility of a pardon for former Arizona Sheriff Joe Arpaio. The 85-year-old was convicted of illegally detaining Latinos because he suspected them of being undocumented immigrants. Brooke Silverbraga for CBS News, New York.
Josh Gerstein joins us now from Washington. He's a senior White House reporter for Politico. Hey, Josh. Let's start with CBS's reporting that chief strategist Bannon may be the next Trump administration official to lose his job. Our sources say he could be out by the end of this week. What are the risks and benefits of Trump letting Bannon go from a political standpoint?
Well, I mean, the benefit is that there are a bunch of people, I think, on both sides of the aisle that would like to see Bannon go because of some of the things he's stood for in the past. So it might help calm the waters over some of the things the president has had difficulty with over the last few days, especially dealing with these racially sensitive issues like the events in Charlottesville. On the other hand, I think you would see a tremendous outpouring of anger from the online grassroots activists, the so-called alt-right that Bannon has been associated with back to his Breitbart days. And they really can make a lot of static and a lot of noise for this White House. And I think that's the reason why up till now the president hasn't pulled the trigger on this. You know, if Bannon does go, this may be like the longest goodbye. There's been rumors of his departure for at least 3 solid months.
Was his linkages to the alt-right movement in the shadow of what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia, the final straw for the president? Because as you say, the president had been distancing himself from Bannon in recent months.
I think that that event probably was not really the final straw. I think that there have been other tensions that have been building, and particularly the campaign against National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster, with a lot of people in the alt-right and online coming out against him, sometimes bringing up sort of scurrilous kind of personal allegations. That's seen as associated with Bannon, at least seen that way by some other people in the White House. So with John Kelly in there now as chief of staff, I think Bannon was already in a more tenuous position even before the Charlottesville event, which I don't think you can blame on Bannon per se.
And if Bannon goes, what is the president's message? What message does that send as far as where his allegiance is now?
Well, if he were to send Bannon away, I think it would send a message of inclusivity and of the president listening to some of his critics, but it would seem inconsistent with the sort of combative persona the president has shown all the way back through the campaign and even over the last 24 hours, where after coming out and giving out his makeup statement on the Charlottesville issue, he seems to express resentment about the media asking him about it and continuing to be bearing grudges about other matters not related to that. So it would seem inconsistent with where the president's headspace is right now to make a big scene over dismissing Bannon, I think.
The president is under a lot of pressure from critics. A 4th member has now resigned from Trump's Manufacturing Council. Scott Paul tweeted, "I'm resigning from the Jobs Initiative because it's the right thing for me to do." The president has been responding to these resignations much faster than he responded to the violence in Charlottesville. And this is what he tweeted: "For every CEO that drops out of the Manufacturing Council, I have many to take their place. What do these defections of corporate leaders mean for the president?
Well, I think it's a big problem for the president. I mean, remember, his brand as much as anything is to be a business leader, that he's going to be pro-business and pro-jobs. If he can't even get the leaders of major American companies to sit in a room with him, I think it's damaging to his brand with a strata of the public that maybe doesn't pay so much attention to some of these other issues, with a kind of moderate group that eventually, for re-election or to get any of his initiatives passed, he's going to need to court. So I think it is very problematic, and that's why you see so much resentment from the president, so much anger with him fuming over the first resignation through the day yesterday, tweeting about it both in the morning and in the evening, while there were a lot of other things going on.
Yeah. Lastly, the president retweeted a Fox News article saying that he is strongly considering pardoning Arizona Sheriff Joe Arpaio. He, of course, was found guilty of defying a judge's order to stop traffic patrols which targeted Latinos. Now, if that reporting is true, he's considering a pardon. It would be his first presidential pardon. What kind of political blowback could he see from Latinos, a crucial voting bloc?
Yeah, I mean, it would seem to inflame the very passions that we saw playing out over the weekend, this prickly area that the president has had trouble navigating, to really anger Latinos and anger other immigrant groups as well as the left by offering this kind of pardon to someone who is, we think, the president's friend, if not just his political associate. I think it would be very, very problematic and create a lot of anger. That said, a president has complete discretion to issue pardons, and it would be very easy for him to do this as a legal matter. He could do it on a paper napkin if he so desired. So we'll have to see what his whim is on this, and it could be at any moment he just decides he's going to do it. He'll go ahead and do it. But I do think there would be some pretty significant fallout, especially there in Arizona.
Josh Gerstein with Politico. Thanks, Josh.
Okay, Stephanie, take care.